So I currently have open the Photoshop file rose.psd, and it's a pretty photograph of a white rose. Now when we go to create a brush out of this, what I'm going to do is show you the wrong way to create the brush, and then demonstrate the reason why that was the wrong way, and then show you the correct way to create a brush out of this photograph. So from what you learned before in the last video segment was that yes, you can indeed create a brush out of various areas in an image, or create a brush out of an entire image. It's really up to you. And you also learned that turning your image into grayscale isn't 100% necessary when creating a brush. It just allows us to get an idea, a better idea, of how the brush will look when we go to use it. Let's just say that I want to create a brush where the brush tip shape is in the form of this rose and not any of the leaves or the extra background area or the extra negative space here. So what I would first do is select just the rose. And I could do this in a number of ways. For instance, I can go up to the select menu and choose color range and just define the white color of the rose. Get a nice selection going, bringing up the fuzziness a little bit here, and then go to OK. Now again, this is going to be the wrong way. Let me just show you why in a second. So let's just say that I also wanted to get some other parts of the rose that actually didn't make it into my selection. So I'm going to add to the selection by using the magic wand tool, and with its tolerance set to 20, anti-alias checked, and then just hold the shift key and click in areas of the rose that I kind of want to be part of the brush. Okay, so now I'm going to get out the lasso tool here and hold shift on my keyboard again and just click, hold, and drag a nice circular selection around the interior portion so I get that too. So I selected just the rose here, as you can see, and I've done a pretty good job, right? Well, now I'm going to go up to Image, choose Adjustments, and the Channel Mixer again. Make sure Monochrome is checked. Make a few small adjustments here, and then go to OK. Now I'm going to go up to Edit and choose Define Brush Preset. And notice with my thumbnail here, I have a nice little preview of what my brush tip shape will look like. Looks pretty cool. So I'm going to give it a name because I know that this is an example of what not to do. I'm going to give it a name of Test and then go to OK. Now watch me as I create a new document and try to use this brush. It'll work, but you'll see that there's better ways to do this, to go about creating a brush out of this image. I'm going to go to File, choose New, choose a preset of Web, then go to OK. Get out my brush tool, select my flower brush here. Again, I know it's my flower brush because I roll over it and it says the word Test. Get a nice color going. Let's see, maybe something like this. And that would be a foreground color again. I'm going to bring down the size of my brush and then click once. Okay, so as you can see, yes, I do have a nice brush tip shape out of this particular rose image. However, some areas of the actual rose are kind of hard to see. It almost appears as though too much highlight is being used with my brush tip shape. And that's actually because I need to invert my colors, where my rose ends up not staying white, but converted into a nice gray color. So that way, my brush tip shape isn't so transparent in certain areas. Remember, all the areas of the image that you define as a brush that contain white pixels, well, all of those areas are transparent. So as you can see here, with my brush tip shape, I can barely see my rose. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to the document where I defined the brush originally. Let me show you the right way to do this. The right way to do this when wanting to create a brush tip shape out of an area of an image that is already white is that you want to actually try to invert the color of that area. So to invert this image, I would select the layer within the Layers panel and press the keyboard shortcut Control-I. And then let's go up to Image, Adjustments, and choose Channel Mixer. And make sure Monochrome is checked. Now notice because we have inverted the white rose, we now see that it displays in a nice grayscale color. We're going to try to use the red channel to basically take out as much of that background as we can. So I'm going to bring up the red channel quite a bit. So I brought my red channel to 96, my green channel is set at 43, and my blue channel is set at 20. And again, make sure that monochrome is checked, and then go to OK. Now I'm going to make a nice selection around my flower here using the rectangular marquee tool, and then go to Edit, choose Define Brush Preset, and give this brush preset a name of Rose, and then go to OK. Now let's create a new document by going up to File, New. I'm going to choose a preset of Web, and then go to OK. And with that same color that I had selected earlier, I'm going to get out the brush tool, select the brush tip shape that I've just created, bring down the size a little bit here, and now notice you now have created a beautiful brush out of a picture of a rose. I'm going to play around with this a little bit more by selecting a different color here, high saturated red, choose another brush size here, and take a look. Pretty cool. So as you can see, yes, there are some techniques that you need to be aware of before creating a brush from a photograph. Just keep in mind that any areas that are white within your original photograph that you'd like to be part of that brush tip shape will just end up becoming transparent in the end. Now to begin playing with our brushes. I'm actually going to go back in the history by choosing the little history icon here and double clicking on my Untitled 1 document. That'll take me back all the way until I first had created this document. And what I'm going to do here is actually have you paint with your brush onto a black background. So to make sure that your background is black, select your background layer once within the Layers panel and press Ctrl-I on your keyboard. That'll invert the white color to black. Then let's create a new layer by choosing the New Layer icon here. And then let's get out our brush tool again, be on the keyboard, select our rose, and a nice size for our rose, and then click once. Doesn't that look stunning? So let's make sure that we've created one rose by clicking with our brush tool once within our document on a black background. Then let's name that layer Rose, and great! Well, I hope you've had fun. I hope you have learned a lot about how to properly create a brush within Photoshop. And later on, I may end up even showing you how to load brushes into the system. And I will see you in class.